Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. So today we're back working on the 9.3 Pontiac Rearend. Finally got the brake drums off of it. I go ahead and get it apart, get it cleaned up, get it rebuilt, get axles ordered for it. Hopefully get it finished up in the next week or two. Just waiting on parts. I have all the stuff for the center section here. I did notice something though while we're working on it. The front pinion bearing's completely gone in it, so hopefully it didn't spin bad enough to damage the third member, but we'll find out when we get it apart. Something else I wanted to talk about. I made a video some time back about getting started and buying tools, and I've had quite a few questions about the Craftsman Tools since they've become Chinese made and Lowe's is selling them instead of Sears. And as you know, I tend to try to avoid imported tools as much as I can. Well, with the new day job and all, I figured I had a good opportunity to try them out and put them through their paces. And nobody's sponsoring this video, but I did go ahead and buy these 189 piece Craftsman tool sets. It goes up through 15/16 to 21 millimeter, has your quarter, 3/8 and half. So just a good basic starter set in this handy little case that I think will fit in the box of my shop at the day job pretty well. So I'll speak about this more later, but I'm going to put these through their paces and see how they hold up compared to my old Craftsman. I already have a theory on it, but we'll see how it goes. And they are standing behind the replacement warranty from what I've heard, and the guy at the Lowe's said they will replace them if you bring them back. So, and they're honoring that on the older Craftsman tools as well. So we'll see. I don't buy tools based on the warranty. I buy tools based on the fact that they don't break. And when I do break one, I was usually doing something to it that I shouldn't have been. So we'll see if it holds true with these. So I'm going to use this today to actually work on the rear end. It will be the first test of putting these through their paces, even though this isn't super heavy work, but it is rusty, old, stuck, difficult bolts. So I figured this would be a good starting point for a year of beating on these and see how they do. So let's get started on the rear end. So this is kind of where I stopped on the other side. I still got to get the brake lines off. I'm going to see if I can get it to unscrew. I got to get that one apart. There's a T fitting somewhere, oh, right there. This rear end's a little different in that, let me drop you off the camera here, stand for a second here. This is a pretty neat little feature I thought on these rear ends. Let me get this cool out of the way here. This is the vent cap for the rear end, but it also holds the banjo fitting for the brake line. So it's a a bolt and your vent. And I just thought that was a really neat little feature. You don't see stuff like that anymore. Now I should probably go get my flare nut wrenches, but them old bolt heads or fitting heads are a little rolled over to start with. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. It's going to twist and break. And it's done dried back out now, but I have PB blasted this. Okay. But on the good side, it is unscrewing from the master cylinder. And I got to replace the lines anyway. Yeah, it's going to ring the line in too. I think this rear end set out for some time after it was removed from the car. And I also think that the car may have been involved in an accident, or this rear end got dropped on the end of the axle while it's been out of the vehicle over the last 40 years or so, 50 years. It probably got pulled in the 70s, to be honest. I don't know for sure. I'll have to talk to the owner. Boy, that shows you how good those old brake lines are. That thing's wound up on itself twice already. There we go. It'll probably go ahead and break now. There it went. we hit a pivot spot and it tore. That's why it's always good to replace these old brake lines anyway. You don't know how rusty they are. And contrary to popular belief, they can rust on the inside, even if they haven't been sitting around. Yeah, it was thin right there. So the old line needed to go anyway. Not a big deal. Oh, and there's a rusted out spot right there on the other end. There's the end we just twisted off. Right here is the one we just twisted off. And then here's a rusted out end. So we need to do that anyway. Not a big deal. And there we go. The axle's ready to come out finally. There's a little bit of juice left in it. Not a whole lot. Probably more than I want it to be though when I roll it over. And it's starting to dribble. I don't have a rag or a paper towel handy right this minute because I cleaned the shop out the other night. So I'm just going to grab it with this here handy Lowe's bag. And get this out of the way. Okay, so we put it back together. The witness marks on the bearings will tell us where we need to go. Zero up the caliper. We'll go right to the back of the flange. We'll measure. We come up with 2, 4, 6, 7. Take our notepad. And what I'll do is draw a picture. This lets me know this is the axle flange. This is the housing flange. Alright, and we know that from here to here is 2.467. Then we just go ahead and measure the thickness of the flange here. Make sure we're level, which we are. And that comes out to nice 410 for 412. .412. So we take 2, 4, 6, 7 plus 0.412. We get 9, 7, 8. So it's basically 2 7/8 from here to here. Now if this had a hole in it, which it doesn't, we could just slide the caliper through. I showed that in the previous video. Either measuring for race brakes or measuring for race brakes part 2, you can go through the access hole and measure from the face to your flange by using the end of the caliper as a stop and letting the depth gauge go back to your flange. So you would effectively do this through the hole in the axle flange to get to here. So now we have our brake dimension. I can go ahead and take this axle out. I know what I need to do there. I am going to get a set of Mosier axles for it. So what we do now is go ahead and drain any oil that's left in it. I'll get a little catch can, pick the other end up over here, tilt it up, and then I'll roll it on its back and take the center section out. And hopefully the housing isn't messed up, because I am a little concerned about that bearing right there. But we'll see how that goes here in just a little bit. So I got this little catch pan set up. I've pretty much determined there's not a lot of grease left in it. The seal was sort of, bearing was so far gone in the front, most of it probably ran out while it was still on the straight. What little was left in it's probably leaked out over years, and just a dribble came out when I took the axle off. Now there's still maybe a quart or so hiding up in there, half a quart to pop out at the opportune moment and make a mess to clean up. But we're not going to worry about that right now. So let me swing you over here. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and start getting the pumpkin out. I've already broken most of the bolts loose. And from here, it's just like taking a 9-inch apart. You pull the nuts off. The studs are pressed into the housing. You just go ahead and, that one's bigger for some reason. So is that one. You know, I seem to remember encountering that at some point in the past. All right. We'll come back to that. Maybe those nuts have been changed out at some point. This would be a good job for the impact wrench, but it's the wee hours of the morning and I'm trying not to make too much noise out here working in the shop, bother anybody. Boy, somebody's been in it at some point, I'm pretty sure. But with anything this old, that's always a good possibility. And sorry I'm blocking up the camera there. So these two over here are really, really tight. We used a silent impact to dead blow hammer. Just make sure they're all broken loose, which looks like they are. Get some more grease and stuff around them. Check this thing out, pressure wash it. It's rainy. I almost forgot to turn the camera on. This is one of those little tricks I learned years ago. You can stick some of these wedges under here, and as long as you're careful driving them in, that'll let it rock up on the back side. And this is for your tougher rear ends, and this one did not want to come loose. So I don't know if the housings warped a little teeny bit or what, but as you walk this wedge up, you can take your pickle fork and get your wedge in there, and it'll hold it up for you. And you can use it as a pry. And the next thing you know, you've got it off the bolts. Once it's off the bolts, it's pretty easy to get it on out the rest of the way. It's a good time to be wearing your steel toes too, in case you drop one of these wedges. If you get your finger in here and feel, you can get in the right place. You don't want to hit anything. See, I just stopped. And there it goes. I just hit the other side of it. And there it is. It's out. Just like I thought. There's not enough grease left in there to say there's any. And we can roll it over and take a look at it. And it's just like looking at a 9-inch basically. It adjusts on the same principle, same theory. Here's your gasket. I don't see any damage on the gear. So it's got to be the bearing that's hanging it up. It's a non-locker. So we'll go ahead and open it up from here, take it apart, clean it, check for damage. Let me drop you off the pod here. So it's got to be the bearing was hanging it up. It's a non-locker. So we'll go ahead and open it up from here, take it apart, clean it, check it for damage. Let me drop you off the pod here. That's all the rear end grease that was left in it. So it had all ran out, as I suspected, out that pinion. Probably got slung out while the thing was still on the road. And really, all in all, it's not in that bad a shape. Works just like a 9-inch. Here's your adjusters with your locks to keep them from moving. 2 caps. It's a bigger 9, but one major difference in this one and the 9-inch, and some will tell you this makes the difference and some will tell you it don't. This one doesn't have the third bearing in the back. Instead of the pinion sitting low on the ring, it's kind of almost in the middle. It's low, but it's not as low as it is on the 9. So I think we'll stop here for this episode. I'll go ahead and get it cleaned up and get it torn down. I've got to go take care of a few other things this morning. And then we'll go from there. So until next time, as always, practice your skills, learn a new one. Either way, turn it into craftsmanship. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, this has been Fab Race Mod Repeat. Have a great day.